think there's a lot of potential and convergence, as I spoke this morning. These are two biggest democracies in the world, the EU and India. But there are obstacles, of course, to make this potential happen and realize it. So I think the first one is, of course, the distance. The EU is in Western Europe, Central Europe, Eastern Europe mostly. India is in South Asia. So they're not exactly close to each other, but they have an overlapping neighborhood, in particular in the Middle East, in the Gulf, even the Indian Ocean. I mean, France has territories in the Indian Ocean today. A second obstacle is I think the Europeans tend to be often very impatient about security issues. They want immediate results. I think Western countries often put a lot of pressure on India and fail to understand that India is in a very complex region in South Asia, which is mostly with states that are non-democratic or transiting to democracies, that are countries that are often hostile towards India, have border disputes, countries like Pakistan that have not been cooperative, to say the least, on terrorism. So that's a second problem, I think, in the relationship. And the third obstacle I think the EU and India will have to look at is how to deal with China. China is not only more capable these days, it's really emerging as the contesting superpower, it's also a country that is more aggressive on various fronts. And this poses fundamental problems to the Europeans and the Indians on how to deal with this China. Europe has embraced China over the last 10 years. I think it's realizing now that there are problems in embracing China too tightly, that the Chinese will cash in their checks sooner or later. So I think India is often trying to explain to Europeans the long-term costs of dealing with the Chinese. So that will be a hurdle also, how to address together, cooperatively, this common concern, because it's not necessarily a threat, but a common concern called China.